Bonjour. Are you ready for a little ooh la la today? Well, you've tuned into the right place because it is now time to wine with Wanda. And I'm so excited. This is episode 11. I like that number 11. And today we're traveling to the south of France, to the Rhone Valley. So I'm in Manhattan, but today, through wine and the power of technology, we're going to the Rhone Valley. My special guest today will be Patrick Rigalet, who is the wine director at Ferraton, Père et Fils, father and sons. That's what Père et Fils means. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt, as a tribute to her, famously said, "Every day, do something that scares you. Speaking French in public scares me, but I'm going to give it the college try." Um, Père and Fils Ferraton was founded in the south of France in the Rhone Valley in 1946, and the winery is now owned by world-renowned winemaker Michel Chapoutier. And Chapoutier has led their transition to biodynamic viticulture. Patrick, who is the wine director that we'll be speaking with in just a few minutes, he obtained his master's degree in wine business management from the Burgundy Business School, and he joined the winery in 2015. And as part of his role, he works very closely with the winemaker Damien Brisset. So during our call today, we're going to be exploring one of the most important grapes from the Rhone, Syrah, and we have two examples today. So the first would be Ferraton Creuse Hermitage Calandre 2016, and that retails for $35, 100% Syrah. And the second would be Ferraton Saint Joseph Bon Nouveau 2016, also 100% Syrah, $55. And let's get Patrick on this call so that he can take over the French pronunciations for me. So here we go. All right, this is the moment. Oh, and there he is.
Hello, Wanda.
Hello. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Fine, yes. Fine,
Can
thank
you
you.
hear me?
Very well. Do you hear
Good,
me?
good. I
Um,
can.
Perfect. So, welcome. You are here on my back. I'm sitting in the middle of our very own bistro on the riverside of Hermitage. So,
Oh, nice.
very luminous.
Great. I don't have a beautiful view to show you. I'm in the middle of Manhattan. There's just lots of traffic and noise. So thank you for
So,
sharing that with us.
to have you here for some good dining. If you happens to be in the Rhone Valley at some point, huh?
Yes, hopefully. I mean, I wonder when that day will come when we can all travel again. I'm sure you did a lot of travel in your job as well.
I do a lot of traveling in my job usually. It's my role is to all the sales and coordinate everything with them, yeah, on the in the outside world, let's say. Damien is focusing really on the vineyards and on the winemaking and everything around this, and uh, ambassador in the markets wherever it takes me. So I spend quite a lot of time traveling usually. So this has been a quite strange and special time for me in the past months, and I believe it will also quite make some quite deep changes in the way we will promote our wines and
Of course.
wine lovers or around the world. So we'll see.
Absolutely. So you grew up in Lyon, you went to business school in Burgundy, and now you're working in the Rhone Valley at Ferraton. So what attracted you to the wine industry?
Well, the wine itself.
Good answer.
Oh, I had some friends who were studying the winemaking, wine growing side of this industry, and I ended up just before my business school doing the harvest a couple of times, working in the cellar in Beaujolais, and so when I had the chance during my business courses to make some internships, I decided to do it in the wine industry, primarily in Beaujolais, then later on a larger scale French négociant, and one thing leading to another. having other experiences, I decided to specialize myself in Burgundy and really into the wine business and everything you could learn about wine to enjoy it as a job and enjoy it on your everyday life, talking about it with people around the world. And after that, I made most of my career in the Rhone Valley,
Okay.
more in the southern part. A small time also in the spirits business, being in Paris, based in Paris. But then I got back to my initial, let's say, passion, and I went back to the Rhone Valley and the wine. And it has been now about 10 years. So,
That's wonderful. So let's talk geography a bit. So for those who are listening who may not be as familiar, we know Rhone is in the south of France, but can you situate us where the Rhone is and exactly where Ferraton is within the Rhone Valley?
well, the Rhone Valley and the Rhone vineyards themselves host some of the oldest French or European vineyards, especially Hermitage, where we are at the foothill here. And the Rhone vineyards accounts for some of the largest wine region in France. As a matter of fact, today, the Rhone wines are the most purchased wine in the French retail,
Okay.
and also they have their space in every wine list or every counter of bar counter here in France. That's what make them popular. And so the Rhone River itself takes its source in Switzerland. So actually, there's a upper Rhone Valley in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
We can say that we are somehow in the lower Rhone Valley that starts from Lyon, and the Rhone River flows to the Mediterranean Sea towards Marseille. The vineyards themselves, they start about 40 kilometers south of Lyon. They follow the river for about 80, 100 kilometers. That's what we call the Northern Rhone Valley.
Okay.
Then, which has a very temperate continental climate. And then you have a small part with less vineyard because there are more mountains and they didn't really settle there. And then it starts again from the city of Montélimar towards Avignon. And Avignon would be the southern border, what we call the Rhone Valley. After that, it's the Provence area towards Marseille.
Okay.
And the Rhone Valley also includes what we call satellites, like Costières de Nîmes, Ventoux, Luberon. These also large area of wine production that are just a bit on the side of the Rhone Valley itself.
Okay, I've been to Luberon. It's, I have to say, I didn't realize I was part of the Rhone Valley. So I learned something new today. Great.
It's quite beautiful place.
It's gorgeous. One day I'll go back. One day. I have a great picture of the lavender fields there that I just love. It always cheers me up. But back to Ferraton. So founded in 1946, but in 1998, something pretty exciting happened. Michel Chapoutier, one of the most famous and acclaimed winemakers in the world, it said that he has more 90 plus ratings from Wine Spectator and Wine Advocate than any other winemaker in the world. And he's a native of the Rhone, and he acquired the winery. And what attracted Michel to Ferraton specifically, do you think?
An acquisition per se at this time. It was more a story of friendship.
Okay.
Michel was part of the young winemakers that spent quite a lot of time talking about wine, drinking it, and with Michel Ferraton, which was a very passionate man about wine. And so because of this friendship, and the Ferraton estate, which has a fairly long story starting in 1946, when this estate and his friend Michel Ferraton was at a turning point, wanted to retire, and needed somehow support to pursue the story of the estate and putting his son in place, assuring the continuation of the estate.
Of course.
And he jumped in as a partner. first. So 1998 was a joint venture. So
wonderful.
among other things, Michel Chapoutier brought to Samuel Ferraton, the son of Michel, the support in turning our vineyards into biodynamic farming. So we could say that Ferraton has been an early adopter of organic biodynamic farming, far from let's say the fashion or any marketing gimmicks.
That's great. And so just give us tell us about a couple of the biodynamic practices that you've implemented.
So for more than 20 years now, the estates, our own vineyards are managed this way. We have a larger, let's say, area of wine, also including wine from the Southern Rhone and that are not under this type of practices. This is more than just an environmental vision. It's just because it happens to be the best way to produce the best grapes and preserve the quality of your terroir, to make sure that you have this good connection, we call it a connection between the vine itself and its environment. So that's what motivated this type of practices. However, it's very important to note that these type of practices are extremely labor intensive, so costly, especially if you're on slopes. So this is something that you can hardly apply to any kind of wine. So our vision is not to say this has come from our estate, this is biodynamic, this is not, this is some grapes we buy or juice we buy from partners. Our vision is, what is our intention? What do we want to show? What do we want to bring to the wine lovers, or amateurs, or just people that are interested in wines with less knowledge? So there's a different scale in that type of production, and so this is why we have this very diverse approach in the winemaking.
That's wonderful. And we should speak a bit about your winemaker. So Damien Brisset. So can you tell us a little bit about Damien, how long he's been there, a little bit about where he's from?
Well, Damien is not here tonight. He could have been, but he's actually at a meeting with all the wine growers in Saint-Père right now. So Damien has been with Ferraton for about 15 years. He's really the link, let's say, with between the time where Michel Ferraton was here. He comes from the Loire Valley, not a wine family.
Oh, okay.
He learned winemaking in Bordeaux. He worked in a few places like Banner-du-Cru. He had made an internship at Cheval Blanc, working really on the terroir, on what each pieces of the estate would bring to the final wine. So he's really oriented into the terroir. And when he arrived in 2005 in the Rhône Valley, he didn't know anything about the Syrah or the Marsanne. So he basically learned how to vinify those grapes with Michel Ferraton and Michel Chapoutier.
Wonderful.
So he really is kind of a link between the modern era of Ferraton and what we are today and where we are going to, and our heritage, the legacy we have from the Ferraton family.
It's so important to have that connection as you move forward, to have someone with that historical knowledge and bond to the past as you move forward, so you don't lose the authenticity. So I know today we're going to be tasting Syrah. And before we taste the wine, what is it about Syrah from your region that is just so special? What makes it different, do you think?
Well, Syrah is a fairly, I mean, we are here in the cradle of Syrah. The Syrah was basically born in this area, so we can easily assume that in this area, this is where the grape can show the most nuances, depending on where it grows. So Syrah has a very good ability to convey what we call terroir. So whether it's a soil change, or climate change, or the vintage is part of the terroir as well. So and the Syrah has this potential to, like the Marsanne, when we talk about the white, we show a lot of nuances and differences depending where it grows, whether it's from the Rhone Valley or other interesting vineyards in the world for the Syrah, by the way. But we are in its cradle here. You can really, almost like Pinot Noir in Burgundy, you can really sense the difference between one site and the other, just being apart by a few hundred meters, because they will have different exposition. And that's actually the case in Saint Joseph, or that's the case in Hermitage. That's why our high-end production is focused towards single vineyards.
Okay, and I think we have one of those today. So should we start with the first Syrah?
Yeah, let's start with the first.
And I'm going to let you pronounce it because I already embarrassed myself speaking French. So, I'll show the bottle.
This is called Crozes Hermitage Calandre.
Calandre.
English is calends. It's basically the
calendar, right?
Latin word for calendar. So it means the new moon day.
Okay.
And you can see on the label these moon phases. This aims to discreetly embody our commitment to biodynamic with this wine. So the attention of the rhythm of nature and everything that is about biodynamic. You have there's a lot of things to say about biodynamic, but one important thing is that about having a lot of intention and attention to the vineyards. Observation is a key factor. So Calandre is actually a wine that is coming from different sites, from the vineyards of Crozes Hermitage.
Okay.
It gathers in its blend actually the three main terroirs of the Crozes Hermitage appellation. In the northern Rhone, Crozes Hermitage is one of the largest area of production. It's mainly composed of a wide plain in between the Rhone River and another river called the Isère River that also flows from the Alps, but with that brought a bit different sediments. So you have the Rhone terraces, the Isère terraces that really show distinctive character for Crozes Hermitage, and Crozes Hermitage, apart from this plain vineyard, also include around 5% of its surface of slope vineyards on the back of. These vineyards are usually having granites, northwest exposition, and they give a lot of also a backbone to the wine. So for this blend, we include these three main terroirs. So the aim, like all our classic wines, is to really show the typicity of an appellation, both geographically speaking, but also it's very important whether the wines come from our production biodynamically or from partner growers that we work to for a final blend. It aims really to show the typicity of the vintage. The vintage itself in the climate is really part of the terroir notion, and this is something very important.
So we have the 2016. Tell us a little bit about that vintage.
Well, as you may know, we have had a string of fairly hot vintages in the Rhone Valley since 2015. Made no exception, and we'll see about 2020. But so far, the months of May has been pretty warm, and the vine is getting a bit crazy at the moment.
Okay.
But 2016 compared to 15 or 17 would be a warm vintage, a quite early vintage in terms of maturation. The difference would be maybe that it brings a different balance thanks to rain that happened later in the season before the harvest. That brought a bit more volume. That brought more roundness and approachability to these wines. So really today, picking a bottle from the Rhone, especially if it's, like a quite a higher end bottle, you most of the time rather pick a 16 than a 15, for example, because it would be more appropriate.
Well, the nose is very captivating. I think we have to taste. I've been trying to resist, but yeah, you can smell that ripeness of the kind of red fruit, black fruit, a little bit of violet maybe.
So it's a wine that is vinified in cement tanks, indigenously, of course.
Okay.
And picked as it is, and the wine then goes through fairly long maturation in the cement tanks, and it's aged in both cement tanks and larger oak contents, what we call mostly.
I like that spiciness that it has.
Spiciness is really a signature. So it can be more or less pronounced depending on the vintage, on the sites where it grows from, or and this wine Crozet Hermitage 2016 in this type of Crozet Hermitage, they are now at good maturity. They're really like drinkable now.
It's earthy. There's a nice mineral thread running through it. It's juicy. It's ripe, but it's not jammy. Quite nice.
Well, the Syrah in the Northern Rhone usually shows this good balance, this good liveliness that gives it energy. It can be even stronger when you are on granite slopes, giving this higher tone minerality. Crozet Hermitage is a really accessible. It's the gate to the Syrah Kingdom, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. The gate to the Syrah Kingdom. I'm gonna have to use that. It's a good description.
These are wines that can be drunk by themselves, but are also really perfect with more salty or fatty type of meals. It can be just a great roasted or grilled red meat piece. It can be more Asian food, like anything that is soy based, all the barbecue, whether the Japanese or.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
But Syrah saltiness and fat, because in the Northern Rhone it has this liveliness, this energy that will cut through the fat, and the saltiness will usually brings out the fruity side of the Syrah.
I'm so glad you mentioned food. You know, I was at a lunch last year with Michel Chapoutier, and I'll never forget him saying, a winemaker should be obsessed with food. Yeah, and he's like, you can't make wine and not think about food and how it will go together. So he's like, don't trust a winemaker who's not obsessed with food.
Yeah, I think he's right. That's why he asked us to open a bistro.
I love it. Too bad you can't deliver to New York. I'm sure you have some delicious things. So should we go to the Saint Joseph?
Yeah.
And I'll let you pronounce the full name.
So this is Saint Joseph lieu-dit, so literally the place called Bonnevaux. So Bonnevaux is the name you will find on the maps. So it's like it could be like a Premier Cru or a Grand Cru. Or,
actually, and you see that a lot in Burgundy as well.
Yeah, well, in this type of wines, the single vineyards are part of the. I mentioned how the Syrah can really behave somehow like Pinot Noir in Burgundy. I mean, it's very strong or refined nuances depending on the wines from one side to the other. And having this single vineyards approach also relates to also a kind of a Burgundy scheme or a tradition. At the end of the day, what the Northern Rhone is, especially because it has just usually what this single grape Syrah could really have the same approach as Burgundy, just a matter of history.
Exactly.
And well, history, the people also are part of this terroir notion, and terroir is also something that evolves. So when people in Saint Joseph were making only blended wines from different sites, there's a trend and in rediscovering or discovering the higher potential vineyards and isolate them in making world-class wines.
Wonderful.
Here you are just in front of the Hermitage. You are at 350 meters high on granite. You literally see through the Rhône Valley and another river valley the chapter on the Hermitage. So it's not Hermitage, of course, but there's a lot of similarity that indicates that had indicated to Damien when he scouted for this vineyard that the potential is very high.
Great. And I'm guessing this is a much smaller production.
It is a much smaller production.
Yeah.
Well, this is not a big production either. The program is produced at total cases would range between 2,000 and 3,000 cases, depending on the yields. And this is a small production at the moment because we are restructuring the vineyards, planting new vines on all the ones that we have uprooted. But this is, yes, 10 times smaller, around 300 cases, no more than that. So it's in a high altitude vineyard. When the plain of Crozet Hermitage would be at around 150, 100 meters, depends where you are. The Saint Joseph slopes range from this 50 to 350 meters high. And you are already on the higher part, you're at 350 meters high. So obviously with a different freshness that is both brought by this high elevation and the diurnal shift you will have there, but also from the granite, from the soil.
Okay.
More minerality that expresses itself by this liveliness.
Yeah, the nose, I get a bit more herbal, even like a little bit of eucalyptus. There's more of an herb component to the nose, I think.
But it's much more complex. Of course, these are quite long-lasting wines. They are cellar keepers. So even in 2016, you still feel the touch of the aging, bringing a bit of sweetness on the nose and this oak aging notes, but which are just there to support the rest. So very intense red berries, red and black berries, dry herbs, and something that is also quite a signature from Syrah, and especially in Saint Joseph, is the smokiness. Feel in this wine. So smokiness and the savory notes that you have on at the end of in the mouth.
Really nice. There's a little meatiness to it that I like, but very plush. The tannins are quite delicate, not tough. Really pretty wine. So it's so interesting to see how Syrah can express itself so differently, right? Not that far apart.
And again, you don't have a long distance between Crozet Hermitage and Saint Joseph. It's just that the landscape makes them so different. And within this landscape, you can have even more. This what was mapped as a unity like Saint Joseph also shows a lot of difference in this unity. Saint Joseph is 80 kilometers long, from 70 kilometers long. From north to south, so a very different climate in the northern part than in the south. It ranges from 50 to 350 meters high, different soil, different elevation. So, like in Burgundy or in Côte de Beaune or Côte de Nuit, or you have somehow an unlimited combination of factors for the grapes to show different expression. And as you go south, you will read the cradle of the Saint Joseph population. you are in front of Hermitage. So you have this strong link between these two vineyards. Saint Joseph is fairly unknown and usually offers super value compared to the more renowned vineyards like Hermitage. Of course, there are different wines, but they have this somehow the same potential. So Saint Joseph, if you want good value from the Rhone Valley.
Yeah. And I think what's consistent, you know, that I see in Nice too, is, you know, you talked about terroir, really that expression of the place coming through and the winemaking, whether it's in the concrete or with a little bit of oak, not letting the winemaking obscure the terroir and where it's from. So really beautiful wines. I'm going to show the bottles again for people that just joined. So we started with the Crozes Hermitage Cologne, right? 2016. And that's $35, 100% Syrah. And now we're finishing up the Saint Joseph Bonnevaux, 2016. And yeah, so that's $55 here in the US. But you have a very, I mean, I know we picked these two today, but we should mention you have a very extensive portfolio. You make white wines as well, other reds.
We produce a handful of 40 wines.
Yes.
A lot of wines because that comes from the diversity of the Rhone Valley and from south to north, and we have wines from these two areas. You have many different appellations with different character, and within these same appellations, especially in the northern Rhone, you have also very interesting single vineyards. And how we structure our production depends on what we want to show. You know, we want to. On Rhone, we want a classic Crozes Hermitage, like more brasserie bistro style. A more ageable Crozes Hermitage on this very specific single vineyard. So we have like 4 different Crozes Hermitage red. We have like 5 different Saint Joseph reds, 3 different whites. So that multiplies the number.
Yes. Keeps you all very busy. And so yeah, folks can visit your website, ferraton.fr, to learn more about the history, see the full portfolio.
Very old school website.
It is. It's quaint.
We are a small team. We are we're very busy, and we have a hard time finding the right time to work on this project. But it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yes. And in the U.S., your importer, Sarah, they also have a very nice presentation of the wines that they import for you here in the U.S. So Sarah Wine Imports. And on Instagram, you're at Ferraton_Rhone_wines. So I like to have a little fun at this part of the conversation. I think all of us that work in wine have things that bug us and drive us crazy. Either trends that should just go away, or just crazy ideas that people have about wine. So is there one thing that drives you crazy that you just want to share today?
That drives me crazy, both professionally speaking and as a wine lover, is the ongoing dogmatic religion about natural wines or whatever.
Ooh, you're going to go there.
It's a big thing. So. But, you know, it's just, I don't like dogmatic things. I don't think there's one way of making things. And if things were done in a certain way for centuries, there may be a reason. If people try to put sulfites or anything that could be like sulfites, maybe it's the reason why wines are not natural by essence. Otherwise, they are different. So what is natural wine? It's a big question, and I'm totally open to this. There are great wines. It's in a very uneven world, and it's just that when people try to make you believe that this is a good wine, no matter what is its inner quality, and no matter what the first intention of the winemaker, you know, if it's a wine that hasn't been stored properly or it traveled across the world, and well, it just doesn't show as it was showing when the winemaker made it, and so. Having someone trying to convince me that it's a Puritan wine, and that is terroir, well, I don't know, I don't like it. Don't try to tell me I should like it, because this is, and I don't understand it. That's what bugs me usually.
Got it. Patrick, I like your style. Not afraid to take a stand, tackle a controversial topic in our industry right now. It's true. It's, yeah, we could have another 2 hours about natural wines, but but thank you so much for being here today. I wish I was there enjoying the beautiful bistro and the fresh air of the Rhone one day.
We'll see you soon.
Well, thank you so much. Hope to meet you in person and stay safe. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Au revoir.